Tonight, we begin with a crisis in America's heartland. Empty shipping containers, overflowing grain silos, and a staggering 94% collapse in U.S. farm exports. Once the world's breadbasket, American agriculture now faces a near-total wipeout, threatening millions of jobs and the backbone of rural communities. Overseas buyers have vanished, ships sit idle, and the global food supply chain is breaking down. This isn't a bad harvest or a price dip. It's a man-made disaster rooted in years of escalating trade disputes and tariffs. What started as political maneuvering has become economic devastation for farming families. Markets they relied on have slammed shut, leaving crops unsold and futures uncertain. Farmers are watching their livelihoods wither, not from drought, but from closed borders and broken trade relationships. Families struggle to pay bills, fearing the loss of land held for generations. This is a national emergency, unfolding quietly but striking at the core of America's economic strength. The silence in the fields is deafening. The story of this collapse is the story of America at a crossroads. The question, how does an entire sector recover from a 94% collapse? The answer will define the future of the agricultural heartland. The stakes could not be higher. The roots of this collapse trace back to the US-China trade war. Tariffs on American farm goods made them too expensive for Chinese buyers, shutting out US farmers from their largest export market. What began as a short-term tactic became a prolonged economic conflict, forcing China to seek new suppliers. As China forged new partnerships, American farmers lost not just sales, but their place in global supply chains. The longer tariffs stayed, the more permanent these new relationships became. The impact rippled worldwide. Other nations ramped up production to fill the void, making the global market hyper-competitive. US farmers, once preferred suppliers, became outsiders in a market they helped build. The tariffs didn't just block one market, they triggered a global realignment, isolating American agriculture. The result, a perfect storm. Media, world map with shifting trade routes, American farmer watching global trade news on TV, empty Main Street in rural American town, lost markets, rising competitors, and a 94% export collapse. Farmers who built their lives on reliability and quality became casualties of economic warfare. Their farms became battlegrounds, suffering the deepest wounds. The trade war's legacy is a fractured global market and a devastated American heartland. The damage is not just economic, it's generational. The world moved on, and American farmers were left behind. The question now, can they ever reclaim their lost ground? The answer remains uncertain. The cost of this conflict is still being counted. As China turned away from US farmers, Brazil and Argentina seized the moment. They ramped up soybean production, signed long-term contracts, and became China's new agricultural powerhouses. Australia, Canada, and Europe also stepped in, supplying pork, beef, and dairy. Global buyers diversified, no longer trusting the US as a stable partner. American farmers faced a massive surplus, flooding domestic markets and crashing prices. The world didn't stop eating, just stopped buying American. New supply chains became entrenched, with billions invested in infrastructure abroad. Even if tariffs vanished tomorrow, US farmers would struggle to win back lost customers. The shift is likely permanent. America is now just one of many suppliers. The dominance once taken for granted is gone. The challenge, how to compete in a world that has moved on. The answer will shape the next era of American agriculture. The loss is not just market share, it's global influence. The consequences are profound and lasting. The export collapse has devastated rural America. Crop prices have cratered, often below the cost of production, leaving farmers deeper in debt with every harvest. Rising costs for fertilizer, fuel, and equipment make survival nearly impossible. Farm loan delinquencies are surging, foreclosures loom. The dream of passing down the family farm is turning into a nightmare of debt. The pain spreads beyond farms. Local businesses, schools, and hospitals all suffer as spending dries up. Main streets are emptying, and rural communities are unraveling. The stress is overwhelming. Farmer hotlines report record calls from those in crisis. This is more than an economic downturn. It's a crisis of identity for America's heartland. The fabric of rural life is fraying. The wounds are deep, and recovery is uncertain. The story is written in empty fields and shuttered storefronts. The future of rural America hangs in the balance. The government responded with bailouts, direct payments to farmers to offset losses. For many, it's a lifeline, but it's not a solution. Farmers want markets, not handouts. New trade deals are in the works, but progress is slow, and new markets are much smaller than what was lost. The root problem, lost market access, remains. Bailouts treat symptoms, not the disease. Frustration is growing, dependence on subsidies is unsustainable. Farmers want stable, predictable trade policy, not temporary fixes. Without it, the future remains deeply uncertain. The greatest risk is permanent loss of global market share. America's reputation as a reliable supplier is damaged. New supply chains with Brazil and Argentina are now entrenched. Even if trade wars end, trust is hard to rebuild. The US must now compete for every customer against proven rivals. This shift weakens America's global influence and economic leverage. The decline could accelerate farm consolidation, with small family farms replaced by large corporate operations. Rural America's character is at stake. The risk isn't just economic, it's cultural and strategic. Losing export markets means losing a way of life. The consequences will echo for generations. There is a path forward, but it demands bold action. First, America needs stable, predictable trade policies. No more uncertainty. Rebuilding trust with global partners is essential. Lowering production costs through innovation and policy reform is critical. Investing in technology and efficient supply chains will help farmers compete. Market diversification is non-negotiable. America must find new buyers worldwide. This means more than trade deals. It requires aggressive promotion and support for farmers. The crisis exposed the danger of relying on a single market. The American farmer is resilient and innovative. With the right support, recovery is possible. The choices made now will define the future. It's time to move from crisis management to building a stronger, more secure agricultural future.